Well, hello everybody and welcome to this, the April edition of the European Urology Podcast. My name is Declan Murphy, urologist here in Melbourne, Australia. The April edition is a bit different to the previous editions of European Urology Podcast because we actually recorded this on site at the EAU Annual Meeting in Paris a few weeks ago. We had a chance to catch up with a number of members of the Editorial Board of not just European Urology, but European Urology Oncology, European Urology Focus and European Urology Open Science. So tune in at the start for a chat with all of that group. And it also features my co-host, of course, here on the European Urology Podcast, Joyce Baard, along with the host of the European Urology Oncology Podcast, Renu Eapen. Our highlight paper this month is from the Surgery in Motion section, a fascinating atlas of orthotopic robotic cystectomy. We also took the chance to catch up with our Surgery in Motion editors Ruben de Groote and Nina Harke, not just about that paper, but about that section in general, which is one of the most popular sections in European urology. Finally, for a look at other highlights in the journal this month, we were joined by Eoin Dinneen, urology trainee at University College London. This podcast was recorded on site in the trade area at the European Urology stand, so please do forgive us for the noisy background for some of this content. So here we are reporting live from the EAU meeting in Paris. This is a special European Urology podcast coming to you straight from the Congress. So I'm joined by a bunch of people who work with the journals. I'm Declan Murphy. I work on the podcast for European Urology. I'm joined by Morgan Roupret, Editor-in-Chief of European Urology Oncology.
Yeah, super happy to be in my hometown.
It's your hometown. Thank you, Paris, for welcoming us. Renu Eapen, who's your digital editor looking after European Urology Oncology.
She loves to travel, she loves to podcast.
And of course, Renu and I work together on the GEU Cast podcast.
Yeah, it's great.
We're getting there. We have a big gang.
Yeah.
Christian Gratzke, who's Editor-in-Chief of European Urology Focus. How are you, Christian?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for the invitation.
Nice to see you here. Joyce Baard, who is my co-host on the European Urology podcast. Joyce, nice to see you in person instead of over Zoom. And Jochen Walz, who's the Editor-in-Chief of European Urology Open Science, another one of our sister journals in the European Urology family.
It's great to be here, to join the meeting, to join GEU Cast. We're looking very much forward to it. Yeah.
Exactly, and we're going to have Briganti, the big boss of European Urology, is going to probably turn up here at some stage as well. So we're just going to have a quick chat about podcasting at European Urology family, because we've just only kicked that off in the last 6 or 7 months. Joyce, we kicked off back in September with the European Urology Podcast, which is our monthly podcast featuring papers from European Urology. How have you found it? Has it been fun?
It's already 6 months, right?
Yes, we've just published our 7th monthly edition, actually.
Wow. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable to do the podcast. I still have to learn a lot from you. And from
Oh,
you,
come on, she's an expert.
She's a natural. It's really great, yeah. It's
Yeah.
only unfortunate that we cannot be in person for the podcast. But it's great.
Because the nature of the podcast has been almost always on Zoom.
Yeah.
But while we're here, we're going to actually have some of our featured papers from April. We're going to speak to authors in person over the next few days, actually, and have them in. But it's been really fun working with you on the podcast, and we've had great feedback, I think.
It's been a pleasure working with you, Declan.
So if you search European Urology Podcast, you'll find all of these podcasts. So we started in September, and then Renu, you work with Morgan on European Urology Oncology. So tell us a bit about what you've been doing in the podcasting.
Yes, so the EUO podcast started in December, and we publish every 6 weeks. So the podcast is to coincide with the release of every edition. And we've released 2 so far, both audio, but we'll branch out to video soon. I think we all recognise that European Urology is a home for really high quality data to be published, and now our challenge is disseminating that, and podcasting is such a wonderful way to do it.
And Morgan, you've been very keen on this idea since you took up the reins in January of disseminating the content a bit better, and you've been very effective pushing out not just the podcast,
we are
but the whole
super
journal.
happy with this initiative. I think it's going to increase the visibility of what we do, attract a younger audience.
Yeah.
On top of that, we discussed today with the opportunity maybe to have the author involved, but also the reviewers who were involved in the reading of the paper. It could be also a good way to trigger the debate. Yeah. And so I think it's a perfect tool because it's extremely flexible and we can attract a lot of people around it.
I like the idea of the flexibility. As we get feedback from audience, we can say, oh, well, we could do that segment, or that's what the flexibility of a podcast is. It moves all the time. And Christian, at European Urology Focus, you were actually ahead of us a little bit because you had already started your What's Your Focus series coming out of European Urology Focus, which was a Zoom-based interview that you do for each special edition because EU Focus has themed editions. So what we've ended up doing since September is starting to drop some of those existing What's Your Focus Zooms into our podcast feed so people can watch the video but especially listen to it. So how have you found that?
First of all, I would like to say that I'm really impressed by the energy coming out of Australia for these activities because it really helps us in the European Urology family to get out the message we want. And that's the main aim that we have, right? We have a really high quality content we would like to disseminate and you help us doing that, which is great. So thank you for that. What's Your Focus is basically interviewing our guest editors and we rely on this guest editor theme, highlighting his or her issues in a way that the audience is getting their interest and finally listening and downloading those papers. So I really thank you for that, and there is more to come. We have a lot of more ideas to do social media activities, hopefully with you.
Yeah, look, and you've all had editorial board meetings today, and it's really interesting to hear how people want to use this new podcast platform we've had for 6 months to add more content and do special edition podcasts and do this and that. And we should thank ourselves, Renu, because all the technology and sponsorship has been from GUcast, our little podcast in Australia, which is 4 years old.
4 years old, we just celebrated.
Birthday cake,
we're going to have a drink with you shortly and celebrate properly here in Paris.
But I think the beauty of it is that even though we've got 3 separate podcast channels within the same family, each one has its own different flavour. So there's something in it for everyone. So it's really a one-stop shop.
And we are learning from each other. So of course, 3 podcasts running on the European Urology Podcast channel at the moment, Jochen. But your journal, European Urology Open Science, is clearly looking at this as well, and you've been involved in all of our discussions. So what are your thoughts? Are we going to see a podcast coming from Open Science?
So we are the youngest journal inside of the journal family. Yep. We just started being active 3-4 years ago. So we are catching up with the sisters in the mother journal and aiming to have the same strategies for social media, which is, I think, the way to go for communicating around the publication that we have inside of the journal. So we are thriving also to have a social media editor, which is about to be selected in the month to come. And then we will follow with the same activities, having the podcast, the same format, the same quality, and then joining the entire platform of European Urology with this as well, with our youngest journal, Open Access Journal.
And because uniquely, of course, all of your content is open source, open science. It's already out there free. So having a free dissemination platform like a podcast would complement your own strategy very well.
Sure, It fits well to the open access.
Having a 4th podcast on the channel. Yeah,
definitely.
Well, the family will be complete.
The family will be complete, he says. So we'll be bringing you some more highlights from around the EAU meeting. Myself and Renu will be doing that on GUcast, but we'll push this one out as a special on our podcasting channel for those of you who are interested in knowing about the podcast. So that's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
So for our first highlight paper this month in the European Urology April edition, it's great to be on site here in Paris at the EAU Annual Meeting. I'm joined by 2 of our senior editors, Surgery in Motion editors, Nina Harke and Ruben de Groote, and they're going to introduce the paper we've got this month. Nina, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having us. We are very excited because this is our first time that we have been on the podcast with our new format. Ruben and I, we took over Surgery in Motion in the beginning of this year, and we are very excited to start this new journey together. And today we talk about one of the first manuscripts that we accepted. So I handled the paper actually, and with me is Federico Piramide, and he did an atlas about orthotopic neobladders done robotically, and it combined something that's very new, and we want to focus on that. He combined a review and also a very nice and very detailed video. So Federico, maybe you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the manuscript that you submitted.
Thank you, Nina. I'm honored to be here presenting this project that actually was a EAU working group project. So first of all, I'm Federico Piramide, and I'm a urologist at San Luigi Hospital Orbassano in Turin. I spent quite a year working at the OLV hospital with Professor Motri and Ruben de Groote. During this nice experience, I started working on this paper, on this project that actually was a conjunction between two ideas. One was mine about the systematic review of different neobladder technique for robotic after robotic radical cystectomy, and the other one was by coming from Paolo Dell'Olio, which actually I would like to thank for his assistance during the manuscript drafting and etc. And he had the idea about creating a surgery in motion with all the different techniques. So we put everything together. And it was a little bit tough because we had to go for the systematic review. So all the steps of the systematic review, we screen over 2,000 papers. And at the end, after we identify the different neobladder techniques, then we ask for experienced surgeons to provide video clip about their techniques and to describe their techniques. So it was a paper that actually took us almost 1 year, but we strongly believe in this format because in this way you have a nice overview of the current literature about this topic, which actually is a topic that everybody thinks to know something. So we know that there is a Studer technique, Outman, but actually we don't know really how many different techniques are available. And also for young surgeons that are maybe starting, wants to start the robotic program on radical cystectomy, might find useful to have such surgical atlas actually available for consultation. So and to compare also the different techniques.
So Federico, first of all, congratulations on the great paper. We know each other already quite a long time. You're a great surgeon, you're a great scientist. What I really liked about this paper was that it was a nice combination of a very good instructional video about different ways to skin a cat. You had certain topics of a surgical procedure, making a neobladder, but there are very different ways how to do it. I think you gave a very nice overview of the different ways how to do it. But the unique concept was that you had an instructional video also together with very strong scientific data. And I think Nina and I, in the future of surgeon motion, we want to go this way. I think we want to give a clear message to the urological world that if you're doubting how to do a certain procedure, that you don't necessarily need to go to YouTube or you don't have validated content, but maybe you will have one certain spot where you can find validated instructional videos how to do a certain procedure, and you can do it a lot of times in different ways, and I think you gave the perfect example for that. So my question to you is, do you think that your paper will be used in clinical practice by urologists on site preoperatively?
Well, I hope so. Basically, the idea actually was to provide something practical, something that has, as you said, a strong scientific background, but actually that can be used in clinical practice by both experienced surgeons that maybe want to compare or change their technique because maybe they want to explore something new, or for, as I said, beginners that want to embark in this challenging surgery.
So, as Ruben already said, we would like to have that more and more in our surgery in motion section. So would you have any tips for us? Because you submitted not on invitation, it was just on your own spirit, combining the work of you and all the others. But now that we want to approach new people submitting manuscripts like yours and videos like yours, do you have any tips for us? What we could give them on hand in terms of planning, how long it will take, how they should approach the surgeons to get those really high quality videos as you got?
I think that the most important element for a paper like this is to have a very supportive group around you, because actually we discuss about this project a lot inside the EAU Robotic Working Group, as Ruben knows, especially Alessandro Larcher, the chief of our group, discussed with me and Paolo a lot about all the steps of the review. Everybody, I think, all the guys in the group did a specific part of the systematic review, so it was a very collaborative work. And so the first tips that I can give to the audience is to try to find colleagues that are motivated, so you can share ideas, and so in this way you can, how can you eat a whale bite by bite? So in this way you can approach such a huge project, because actually alone it was not possible. For example, Filippo Turri edited all the videos. My colleague Daniel Amparore drew all the pictures you have done.
And they're beautiful.
Thank you. On the manuscript. So I think that everybody can give something to this paper, but actually for also other projects.
I think you actually showed us like the first step how to fill the gap which is still out there in the urological world, like how to do a procedure. We have strict guidelines on when you have to do a procedure, which kind of patients you should operate, how you should follow up, which adjuvant treatments you should give. But the procedure itself, we actually don't know whether there are some guidelines how to do it. I think with this kind of atlases, you show us sort of a guideline how, together with data behind it, how you can do a specific type of procedure. So I think we really want to congratulate you on that, and I think that's also the path that we want to walk on for the future of Surgeon Motion.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here with you and to discuss this paper, because it's I think that I really feel mine, and I'm very honored of this experience, this opportunity, and so thanks you all for this.
Well done, and well done. Congratulations, Federico.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let me tell you, I was just remembering listening to you that my first publication in European Urology was in the surgery in motion section, and it was robotic cystectomy with extracorporeal neobladder, extracorporeal urinary diversion, 2008, 16 years ago. With Procard at Skopje Guy's Hospital. So I'm kind of seeing myself in a, was I that youthful, innovative person that Federico is? I think you'll go a lot farther than I will, by the way. But it's quite, and surgery in motion, that's when it started back then. Yeah. And you're going to come back later in the podcast, have a chat about this section. But it certainly still is a really, really valuable section, and a really important section to get a publication in. So congratulations to you.
Thank you for your kind words.
Great job.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome back to Nina Harke and Ruben de Groote, our surgery and motion editors at European Urology. So you've agreed to join us for our Meet the Editor section, which is very popular. We get great feedback on this section of the journal because our audience always want to kind of find out what's happening under the hood. How do you get into European Urology? What are the editors thinking when a submission comes across the desk? And we had our writing course yesterday, which is very, very popular, but it's a great chance to meet with editors and find out about that. So we wanted to to just congratulate you on becoming the section editors of Surgery in Motion, and to get your thoughts on the section. What are your plans for the section and so on? So maybe Ruben, you can kick off and tell us a bit about what it's been like. You've been in the job for a few months now.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Declan, for inviting us. I think it's for me and Nina, it's a true honor to be here at EAU in Paris here, and to give you the explanation about the future, how we see it of Surgery in Motion. So I think first of all we have to start with congratulating our predecessors. I think that the work that has been done in the past by people like Alex Mottry, Professor Montorsi, and all his colleagues. Absolutely fantastic work. But of course, standing still is going backwards. So we always have to face the future, and then looking for innovations and mainly responding the needs of this time. And I think with Surgery in Motion, we want to go more visual. We want to go more educational, and actually, basically, we want to be a new reference in instructional videos on how to do procedure with scientific content behind it. So that's a little bit the path that we are following. From a practical point of view, we don't want to throw away what we have done before. I think Surgery in Motion should be the first reference on publishing innovative techniques with outcomes that can be read and seen by the scientific community. But we are also thinking, and of course this is work in progress, but we're also thinking about like a new section within the Surgery in Motion on instructional videos, something that should be a reference point if you're, as a surgeon, in doubt preoperatively how I should do that procedure, that you actually can go to the website, can watch visuals, can watch good instructional videos with scientific content behind it on how you should skin the cat. And there are different ways to skin a cat, and I think that our previous speaker, Federico Piramide, actually showed it very nicely with the Atlas on intracorporeal neobladders. But we want to stretch this out for different indications, not only in the field of robotics, but also in the field of different fields of urology.
So not standing still, I like it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Nina, the key product in Surgery in Motion for the last 20 odd years has been a video. But the accompanying paper is a full paper in European Urology, so it's a peer-reviewed paper. It has to meet all the criteria for that, so you can't just knock up a video of this is how I do my PCNL or whatever. So can you tell us a bit about what you look for in a submission from that point of view? Because I think sometimes authors, I've done it myself, make a flashy video, but you actually haven't paid enough attention to, this is a European Urology paper I'm submitting here. So what do you look for?
Yeah, well, keep in mind that European Urology is one of the leading journals in the world for urology, if not the leading journal. So of course we want to have high quality manuscripts and high quality videos. So if you have a very good video, but you don't have the data that is based on, like on radical prostatectomy, you have a nice technique, but you don't have a good data on that, then maybe you should need to collaborate, because you can't just submit only the video and maybe your case series of 3 or 4 patients. If there's, and that's something we already talked about too in our little committee that Ruben and I, we just started now, and we want to change something. If you have something that's very novel, because now all the new robots come on in the field, the SP robot will be here, so there will be some manuscript and some videos where the databasis is still not that solid. We can still try and see if we can figure something out, but there should be a very good scientific basis for that. So it should be a good manuscript.
I think that's really important, because it is a full manuscript, and in this dog-eat-dog world of impact factors and all that, when you're a high-ranked journal, Alberto is not going to allow us to accept a beautiful Surgery in Motion video. He might love the video, but if it's only going to attract 5 citations over the following 2 years, it will not be fair actually to the rest of the manuscripts to keep our impact factor up to 30, 40, 50 citations. So I think that's very important for listeners to say, you might have a beautiful technique, there might be some brand new video and you think we're the first in wherever to use this brand new blah blah robot, but unless there's an accompanying manuscript of very high value, at least for this main section and the other sections we can talk about, that's what you've got to get right. You have to create a high quality manuscript.
I think I think it's always quality matters. It's not about quantity. I think the focus of European Urology is always to be the top journal in the field of urology, and quality matters. It's not because it's not the number of papers that you should provide, but it's actually the quality of the paper. So we set the bar very high, and we are very, very strict on accepting papers. So you have to, if you submit, be sure that you submit a very good paper, a good professional video, and then hopefully you can be part of the Surgery in Motion team. But we're quite tough in accepting. So.
But just check the homepage now on a regular basis. There will be some changes. There will be some new formats for surgery in motion and also for the other areas of European urology. So we are just in the process of redeveloping new things. So just go on the homepage on a regular basis.
Okay, so you're teasing us a bit now. So we'll always have our classic surgery in motion submission with a classic paper going with it, and there's instructions. You can't just have here's 2 cases. I think there's minimum requirements. Yeah. So but what else are you talking about, Nina? And are there other manuscript-based formats? We'll have accompanying video.
We are hoping, because we were so excited about the submission that we just got, and we talked about earlier about the intracorporeal neobladder. Yes. That's something we want to have a new focus on. There should be a second category focusing on educational videos, but always coming along with a high quality review. So there should be data on it. It's not enough just to show this is a student neobladder, this is a Hauptmann, whatever. We want to see data on that, bladder capacity, functional outcomes. So a good review and a high quality video, and then this will be a solid basis for the new surgeons.
And these instructional / educational things, of course, we're all surgeons, we're a surgical specialty. And I mean, I'm still the same. If I've got some dreadful sort of prostate with some rare tumor I'm operating on, or some really weird anatomy, go straight to Google, can I find a YouTube video about it? Are you thinking, are we going to get into the world of would be non-manuscript or non-citable manuscript related? Are we going to be welcoming some educational videos onto the main European Urology website? That would be good.
I'm very happy that you mentioned it, because if you ask 100 urologists which kind of platform they actually consult in order to see a good video on how to do a procedure, they will go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, YouTube, you have billions of videos, but the problem with YouTube is you don't have any validation, you don't have any quality check, and we want to overcome this. We want to, bring a good alternative. You won't have as many videos as you would have on YouTube, but when you go on it, you will have definitely quality, and it's not only the video, you have all the data behind it as well. So by that we want to bring actually instructional videos to the urological crowd and make them be part of it.
So I think watch this space on that one as well. That sounds good. Yeah. And we're good at messaging out these new opportunities and encouraging submissions. Finally, Nina, so we're used to how peer review works for manuscripts. So if you don't get straight rejected and out to some reviewers, and that still happens with surgery in motion. But what happens to the videos? I haven't been involved in that for a few years. You submit your video, but do you or your reviewers look at the video and say, look, can you edit this or change that or add this in? Yeah. Is there a process for improving videos as well?
Yeah, there's a quality check also for the videos. So the reviewers have to look at the videos, and of course they enjoy it because it's part of the submission. And then they give tips for editing in terms of language, in terms of quality. So there are also a high level of high standards for the videos too, and it's part of the reviewing process. So the video should be excellent.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations again. There's an exciting section. I have to say the two of them do seem very excited about surgery in motion and bringing some changes into this flagship section of our journal. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So for our regular segment of what else is happening in European Urology this month, we're joined by Dr Eoin Dinneen. Eoin's a urology trainee in London. How are you, Eoin?
Very well, thank you, Declan. Thank you for having me on board and inviting to give my supplements on this segment. So yeah, I'm following in the footsteps of giants with Nikita away, and it's a real pleasure to be here. And of course, it's fabulous to be in Paris.
It's great. So we're here on site at the EAU, so it's much more fun recording this podcast physically, chatting to people, rather than me stuck in Melbourne and zooming into people from all over the world. So yeah, it's good EAU. You're enjoying yourself?
Yeah, fab time. Paris is in blossom. The cafes and the bars are full after hours, but here as well, the discourse is great. Really, there's been some fab stuff, and it's great to see people such as yourself again, come from all corners of the world to talk about urology and our patients. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about what stage you're at in your training and where are you?
Sure. So I'm ST7 in UK Money, which is a final year urology trainee in London. Yeah. I'm working with UCLH. I'm on my learning curve for radical prostatectomy, robot assisted. As you know, I have a bit of a research background as well, and I'm the associate principal investigator on the NeuroSafe Proof study, which we're excited to be here as well because we're preparing probably to read out at this meeting next year, and tell the world the findings of our randomized control trial.
PhD for you.
That was my PhD. Defended that 2 years ago now, and back in full-time clinical training now. As you know, I'm looking forward to heading down under to the Peter Mac after Christmas, and that's the next adventure for us, really.
Yeah, we look forward to having Owen down in Melbourne as a fellow on our fellowship program in a year's time. So we've already talked about two of the big papers in the April edition of European Urology, but there's lots of other great stuff in there. So what else caught your eye?
Yeah, so I'll go home first, if I may, from some of your fellow Melburnians.
Yeah.
This is ultrasensitive circulating tumour DNA, taken at the same time as, or just shortly before, radical prostatectomy for men with localised prostate cancer. And whether it's a useful tool for recognising men who are at higher risk of metastases and biochemical recurrence. So this is a study out of the University of Melbourne, collaborating with the University of Cambridge. So 2 sites, 118 patients, circulating tumour cells, circulating tumour DNA, which it can be helpful in the metastatic setting, but can be more difficult to pin down a helpful marker in the localised. So in this way, I wouldn't be an expert in the biology of it, but it looks like they had access to the original tumour information via the biopsy. They did whole gene sequencing and matched it to look for the same mutant alleles in the patient's plasma-free serum. So they had positive and negative findings. 19% of men were positive for these circulating tumour cells, but they found that it was strongly predictive for biochemical recurrence, with 34% overall in the 118 patients, and of those who had positive circulating tumour cells, 74% had biochemical recurrence at a median follow-up of 3 years, versus 12% in the circulating tumour cell negative population. It was also associated with metastasis development as well at that short time as well. So that's interesting. I mean, the applications of that could be if you're looking at treatment escalation in the neoadjuvant or the early adjuvant setting. I know now we wait for biochemical recurrence to 0.2 thanks to radicals and raves, but there was an argument that was under sampling the high-risk patients. So if you've got positive circulating tumour cells, or DNA rather, prior to surgery, whether we can think about treatment escalation in these guys. And of course, if you're being a bit more disruptive, seeing whether some of these men should be having radical prostatectomy in the first instance.
Very good. And I suppose we're more used to the idea of circulating DNA being shed in patients with large metastatic burdens. So it's very interesting to see whether there's utility for these liquid biopsy style thing in earlier disease. Yeah. Very good one. Go and read the whole detail in the journal. Anything else catch your eye?
Yeah, so further away from my area of expertise and not from Melbourne this time, there's simulation of surgery in the metaverse. So quite futuristic. This is an Italian collaborative paper written by Professor Porpiglia. In fact, they're presenting it later on today, so I'll be heading along to that to get that firsthand. But this is a case series of 9 patients where they created these digitally accessible models of the tumour and the kidney, and importantly the vasculature of both of those, which they accessed in the virtual reality world of the metaverse. So these are 9 patients that they performed surgery on during a conference in March in Italy, and moderators and the surgeons joined prior to the case, which was live, to discuss aspects of the operation itself with their avatars present in the room, looking at the kidneys with 4 different preset filters. So first was the vasculature, second was the vasculature with pertaining to the tumour, thirdly was a suggestion on where they should do the clamping the clamping, amazing. And lastly the resection crater as well. So they report the outcomes with that, and it's really an exploratory piece on where the future of the metaverse will go within urology, but also talking about the possibility. I mean, we talk about telephone clinics now, but why not telepresence clinics? And you can be there with your patient in avatar form and maybe make it a bit more real. So perhaps a look into the future there.
Professor Porpiglia and his team have always had an interest in that, and they do run a great live surgery meeting in Turin, which is where that was at. And I remember being there about 2018 or 2019 doing live surgery in Turin for that meeting, and it was jaw-dropping, the stuff that they were developing themselves. So, but I suppose the world's moved on since then. We got the ABBA-type avatars, and people are sort of semi-expecting, why don't you have an avatar of my tumour, doctor, and so on.
Right.
So
that's right.
And the metaverse, here we come.
And that's the nice thing about this is, you know, it's really easy to appreciate the visuals of it, so you can probably show it to patients as well, take them through it. But it's not cheap, at €1,000 per pop, and they're quite right to point out that, you know, it's going to have to be value for money, and it's also going to have to be equitably shared amongst the patient populations, because it's not fair if we're able to do it in certain centres, but perhaps not for everyone if there's benefit to it.
2 great papers. Now, if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, just to let you know, Owen's not using any notes. I don't know how you've managed to remember everything so far, especially all the data you gave us from the first paper, but can you remember the third paper?
No. I think that was a joke.
So that's all we have time for in this segment of the European Urology Podcast.
I think it was a joke.
It was very good. So look, that's great. And thank you for your support for the journal. And
my pleasure.
And we look forward to having you down in Melbourne before too long.
I'm looking forward to coming down.
Thanks. That's all we have time for on this edition of the European Urology Podcast. I hope you did enjoy this. And again, apologies for the noisy background. You got all the atmosphere of the trade area of the EAU meeting. We'll be back next month from the studio as usual with all the highlights from the May edition of European Urology. Take care.